Cappadocia, 55 ed. A group of men who do not believe in the existence of God and who deny Christianity drag Street Matthew into the middle of the desert. Thinking they have gotten far enough away from other people, the group stops to lynch a man of a different religion. Noticing a cross around his neck, the leader of the group tears it off of Street Matthew's neck and spits on it, tossing it aside. The unbeliever then takes a rock and throws it at the man, hitting him directly in the head. The others decide to do the same, and as a result they pelt the apostle with stones. Noticing that Matthew no longer moved or resisted, the leader decided to strike the final blow. He picked up one of the stones and approached the apostle, when suddenly lightning began to flash over his head, as if to symbolize that the Lord sees everything. Ignoring this sign, the unbeliever executes Matthew. 1209 AD Christianity now dominates Europe, and on faith alone the Crusaders decide to conquer Jerusalem. Ireland lies far from the Holy Land. Norman invaders loyal to King John attempt to conquer the island. In the depths of the Gallic lands, a remote monastery protects an ancient relic. Walking along the seashore in search of food, Dermot notices 3 horsemen nearby and assumes they may carry a threat to their abbey. Hurrying to the abbey, the lad informs the rest of the monks of everything, but fails to elaborate on the details so that they realize whether they are allies or enemies. The head of the abbey orders them to ignore it, because it's time for a service they can't ignore. Heading to the church, the monks pray, but Dermot continues to watch the exit. Soon he notices a man arriving, who turns out to be a French Cistercian monk named Gerald. He joins the others, and after the service he announces that he has arrived with a charter from Pope Innocent II. The ideological leader of the Christians commands a pilgrimage for the monks to take the guarded holy relic to Rome. The head of the abbey is skeptical of such a decision, because the holy relic is capable of destroying anyone who is impure of heart and tries to take possession of it. The path is full of danger, but the herald reminds them that this is an order from the Pope, and they cannot challenge it. The head of the monastery equips several monks, including Dermod, Cahal, Kieran and Rua, as well as Mute, who is able to help them on their difficult journey. Soon a handful of monks, led by Gerald and 2 attendants, set off on their journey. A few hours later, their wagon gets stuck in a hole, and the monks don't have the strength to fix it. Suddenly, lightning strikes the golden chest containing the relic, and the fur hiding it catches fire. The monks manage to put out the fire, after which Cahal tries to touch the chest to check its integrity and safety. As soon as the monk does so, he receives a burn, as if he had been struck by lightning, but the chest is unharmed. This phenomenon only reinforces the belief in the mystical power of the relic, after which the weather abruptly turns bad, and it begins to rain heavily. The group finds a place to camp and discusses what has happened. Some sincerely believe in a higher power, while others try to explain what happened by the vagaries of the weather. The next morning, Dermot wakes up first and goes for a walk, where he notices the Mute. Removing the top of his clothes, the man with the cross on his back prays to the Lord and tries to beg redemption for his sins without uttering a word. Soon the group continues on, but the weather conditions change dramatically, making the journey increasingly difficult. Noticing a river nearby, Harold decides to replenish his water supply. His companions and monks warn him that this place is the home of fairies and spirits that stupefy wanderers. Unwilling to believe in pagan prejudices uncharacteristic of people with his religion, Harold enters the water and sanctifies it. He firmly believes that rumors should not become a barrier to Christians, so he offers Dermot a taste of the water. Unaware of the consequences that await him, Mute decides to take it upon himself and stands up for the young monk, not wanting the curse to turn out to be real and befall Dermot. Once on the border of the 2 countries, the attendants abandon their mission. Ireland is struggling to recover from successive Norman invasions, and the land across the river is too dangerous. Not wanting to come face to face with Gallic warriors, the escorts set off in the other direction. The monks cannot stop the pilgrimage or turn back, so they continue their journey through the res. They soon encounter a group of warriors, fearing they may be attacked. It turns out to be the Norman Legion, led by Raymond de Merville, the son of the local bard. Moreover, the herald is well acquainted with him and has arranged to meet him in advance. The baron and his son can not only shelter the monk and give a place to sleep, but also protect him from enemies. On the way to the camp, the group encounters special symbols on a tree and the corpse of a fox, a sign of the presence of Gallic warriors nearby. At the same time, the soldiers spot 2 poachers on the opposite bank. Raymond orders that the criminals be caught and punished for their deeds. In their haste to carry out the order, the soldiers trap the poachers and strip them of their arms, feeding them to their dogs. Raymond hears his subordinates talking and learns that they have seen the Mute before. As it turns out, he was once a crusader and participated in bloody battles near Constantinople, so he does not deserve the Lord's forgiveness and the right to be converted. Kiran and Cahal intercede for the Mute, arguing that he has done enough for the Almighty to forgive him for the sins he has committed. Moreover, they pray regularly to rehabilitate Nemogo so that he has a chance to go to heaven. Upon arrival at the camp, the monks meet Baron de Merville, an old fanatic who dreams of seeing the relic hidden in the golden chest. He would like to lead the pilgrimage and meet the Pope, but he is too old for that and settles for little. The herald allows the Baron to see the very stone used to execute Street Matthew. Kieran thinks that showing the stone is not a good idea, but the herald ignores his remarks. At the same time, Raymond is skeptical of his father's faith, but is compelled to pray with the others, showing homage to the relic. During the recreation, the herald communicates with the Baron and his son in French, which leaves most of the monks unaware. Kieran has traveled extensively and knows foreign languages, so he understands what they are talking about. The monk is disgusted by the cruelty of the soldiers and their leaders, so he is angry at the herald, who serves the sinners. The Cistercian argues that such behavior is justified and their protection is a necessary evil, so the soldiers can be forgiven for their criminal and cruel acts. The next morning, Dermot is again one of the first to wake up and sets off into the forest. Here he is met by Raymond, who clings to the young monk, assuming him to be a spy. The mute stands up for the lad and does not allow him to be offended, for Dermot is strong in his faith and needs protection. Soon a large caravan of armed men, led by Raymond, sets off to escort the monks to a boat leaving for Waterford. Half a day later, they reach the river and see that the bridge has been burned and the guards who guarded it brutally executed. Noticing the symbolism of the Gallic warriors, Raymond takes most of his soldiers with him to set off in pursuit of the enemy. The enemy have left on foot, so they will easily catch up with them and avenge their comrades. In the meantime, the monks remain with a token guard of a few men, led by the experienced warrior Fournier. The other bridges are too far away, so Fournier suggests going through the forest, as it is the shortest, albeit dangerous road. As the group continues on their way, they find themselves trapped and realize they are surrounded by dozens of Gallic warriors. They attack the soldiers with arrows, spears, and other throwing projectiles, resulting in the elimination of most of the monks' guards. In an attempt to take possession of the chest, one of the enemies chips off several pearls and tries to open the vault to steal the relic. Mute protects Dermot with his body, but is hit in the head and loses consciousness. When he regains consciousness, he sees what is happening and, grabbing a weapon, executes the thief for trying to open the golden chest. Maddened by hopelessness, Mute executes most of the Gallic warriors and clashes with their leader. Despite the size and physicality of his opponent, Nemoy easily defeats him, causing the others to scatter in all directions in terror. Against this backdrop, one of the Gallic warriors steals the cart with the relic and Kieran, who fails to protect the stone. After the incident, Cahal and Harold, who had been hiding, join Mute and Dermot. A monk arriving from Rome justifies Mute's cruelty and says it is a sacred anger. A pilgrimage without the relic is impossible, so the four survivors decide to recover the stolen stone. There is no point in waiting for Raymond's army, for if they stay in one place they may become a target of the enemy. Continuing deep into the forest, Mute finds a guard and eliminates him, allowing the group to get close to the Gallic camp. Kieran is captured and tied to a tree, and there are dozens of warriors in the camp, so trying to fight them in a fair fight is a pointless venture. Dermot proposes a plan to steal the relic and free the prisoner, but the herald asks to take only the stone, abandoning Kieran. He believes in sacrificing himself for a sacred mission, and the captive monk is willing to take such a step to save the stone. At night, horsemen arrive at the Gallic encampment, and their warriors set out to meet them. Taking advantage of the situation, Dermot tries to free Kieran, but he cannot cut the ropes. The captured monk asks the lad to run away and informs him that the chest is empty because he managed to throw away the relic on his way here not far from the battle site. Meanwhile, it turns out that Raymond has hired Gallic warriors to execute the monks. He betrayed his father and his faith and wanted the relic so he could give it to King John. The English leader wanted to consolidate his power and authority by demonstrating greatness before Rome and its allies. Before paying generously, Raymond checks the chest and discovers that the stone has disappeared. In an attempt to find out where it is, Raymond tortures a monk with a sharp arrow with multiple tips. He promises an execution without suffering, but taunts Kieran when he decides to keep quiet. Before leaving this world, the monk cries out the name of the Lord, keeping his faith in him. Unable to help the deceased Kieran, the group returns to the road and finds the very same stone. Dermot is the only one who is not afraid to take the relic in hand and does so without consequence, proving his true faith in the Lord. Finding themselves in desperate straits, the group continues their pilgrimage. In the morning, Raymond's army catches up with them, but the four hide in thick fog and cross the river. They take this as God's help, but do not realize where to go next. Raymond pursues the group and provokes the herald by telling everyone that he allowed his own father to be executed because he was a heretic. Losing faith in his surroundings and chances of success, Dermot decides to pray to the relic and the others join him. Hearing the ringing, the foursome sets off at the sound and soon find a river ferry bound for Waterford. Cahal gives the merchants the pearls from the chest to take on board. It seems that they manage to escape, but the tide is getting shallow and the boat sits on the bottom. The merchants offer to wait a bit, but they are all in danger as Raymond and his soldiers approach. The herald puts his sword in the hand of the mute and asks him to protect them so that the Lord may forgive his sins. Sacrificing himself, not for the stone, but to save Dermot, Mute sets out to meet Raymond and his soldiers. Engaging in combat, he executes several warriors, after which he is severely wounded. Raymond beats him and stabs him in the stomach with a multi-tipped arrow. Thinking he has won, Raymond asks Mute where he is from. For the first time, Mute decides to speak to inform him that he has come from hell, whereupon he chews his opponent's throat. Noticing a few more soldiers, Nimoy continues the battle and eliminates the pursuers before bleeding out and leaving this world. Throughout this time, an archer from Raymond's squad attacks the boat. Firing more than 10 arrows, he takes the life of the ferryman. The archer's last shot hits Cahal, causing the monk to leave this world. Hearing the clanking of swords, the herald claims it is a sacred chime in the name of the stone. He believes that the holy relic will inspire men to holy violence that can be justified in the name of the Lord. Reacting in disgust, Derma decides to throw the stone into the water. He and the herald begin to fight, causing the Cistercian to fall overboard. Not letting go of the precious relic, Harold goes to the bottom following the stone. The ferryman asks where to go, but Dermot has no answer as his pilgrimage is over. At the same moment, a light from the sky falls on the boat, symbolizing that the Lord's will has been accomplished.